There was a rule everyone understood by the end of World War II. You did not expect mercy. Not from the enemy. Not from the battlefield. Not from the final months of a collapsing war. By 1945, Europe had been bled dry. Cities lay in ruins. Roads were packed with refugees dragging everything they owned behind them. Entire forests were reduced to splinters and shell craters. The snow itself was stained dark in places no one bothered to clean anymore. American soldiers had learned quickly that the end of a war was not gentle. It was desperate. Men fought harder when they had nothing left. Orders stopped making sense. Units disappeared overnight. Civilians died not because someone shot them, but because no one came back for them. This was the rule. War did not slow down at the end. It consumed whatever remained. And yet, in the frozen winter of 1945, one patrol would open a door and discover something that shattered that belief completely. Not a trap. Not an ambush. But silence. And 29 lives frozen in time. You are Private First Class Robert Keller. You are 22 years old. You grew up in rural Ohio. You worked fields before you ever held a rifle. When you were drafted in 1943, you had never left your state. By the time you reached Europe, you felt decades older. You are part of the 99th Infantry Division, a unit that has already paid heavily for its survival. You fought through the Battle of the Bulge. You slept in foxholes where men froze to death beside you. You watched medics amputate frostbitten limbs with no anesthesia and no time. By January 1945, you are no longer surprised by death. Germany is collapsing. The Ardennes offensive has failed. The Luftwaffe barely flies. Fuel shortages cripple movement. Entire German units surrender without firing a shot. Others fight fanatically because they have nowhere else to go. Logistics have failed completely. Hospitals overflow with wounded soldiers but have no heat. Trains sit idle on frozen tracks. Field kitchens run out of food. Medical evacuations stop happening. This is the world you move through now. On this morning, your platoon receives a simple order. Investigate a small structure near a wooded village. A civilian reported it might be a medical outpost. Possibly abandoned. Possibly hiding enemy troops. You take 6 men. You expect resistance. You expect danger. You do not expect what waits inside. You approach the building cautiously. It is small. Stone. Looks like it was once a school or clinic. There are no markings. No Red Cross flag. No smoke from the chimney. The air is unnaturally still. You knock. No response. Your lieutenant nods. You push the door open. Cold air rushes out like a breath from a tomb. The smell hits you immediately. Not blood. Not smoke. Something heavier. Stale fabric. You step inside. Your boots crunch, not on snow but on frozen condensation coating the stone floor. The room is dim. Frost clouds the windows. Your breath fogs the air. You call out. Hello. Nothing answers. Then you see her. A woman sits against the far wall. She wears a gray medical uniform. A white armband with a faded red cross. Her arms are wrapped tightly around her body, as if she tried to conserve heat. Her eyes are open. Frozen. You stop breathing for a moment. Another step forward. Another shape emerges. Then another. The room fills slowly with human forms. Women. Young. Some lie on cots. Some slump in wooden chairs. Others are on the floor. You begin counting without realizing it. 5, 10, 15. Your chest tightens. 29. 29 German nurses. No wounds. No blood. No violence. Just cold. One of your men kneels to check a pulse even though everyone knows better. They're gone. No one speaks. Your lieutenant removes his helmet. Time stretches. This is not combat. This is not victory. This is abandonment. These women were German Red Cross nurses. Not soldiers. Not party officials. Most were between 18 and 30 years old. Before the war, many had been students, church volunteers, hospital aides. They were trained to treat wounds, stop bleeding, manage frostbite, and comfort dying men. By late 1944, they were sent closer to the front because Germany was running out of medical staff. They worked in freezing buildings with minimal supplies. They treated soldiers with gangrene, amputated limbs, and shell shock. And when the front collapsed, they were told to stay. Because there were no trucks, no fuel, no orders. The building you stand in was an improvised medical outpost. A stove sits in the corner. Cold. Empty. A logbook rests frozen open on a desk. The last entry reads, fuel critically low. Supplies requested. No response. That was weeks ago. After that, nothing. They waited. The cold crept in. The fire went out. One by one their bodies gave up. You look at their faces. Some appear calm. Others look terrified. Several are huddled together, arms intertwined, sharing warmth until there was none left to share. You imagine the final hours. The windows frosting over. The silence growing heavier. The realization that no one was coming. You have seen death before. Violent death. Sudden death. But this is slow. This is quiet. This is the kind of death war never writes medals for. One of your men turns away and vomits. Another begins to cry. No one stops him. Because no one can. If you find this kind of forgotten military history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of sacrifice and human cost deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. This discovery never makes headlines. There is no press release. No ceremony. But among the soldiers who witness it, something changes. Hatred softens, not into forgiveness but into understanding. This is what a collapsing system does. It abandons even those meant to save lives. As American forces advance, they uncover camps, mass graves, and execution sites. Those horrors are deliberate. This one is different. There is no villain to point to. Only absence. Only neglect. Only a war that ran out of everything, including humanity. Many soldiers later say this moment ended the war for them emotionally. Not the surrender. Not the victory. This room. You survive the war. You go home. You build a life. But every winter when the air turns sharp, you remember that room. You remember the silence. You never learn all their names. But you remember their faces. History remembers World War II as a war of heroes and victories. But wars are also defined by the people left behind. 29 nurses. No graves of honor. No monuments. Just a frozen room at the end of a dying war. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or country, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that those 29 nurses, and the soldiers who found them, do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered. If you want, I can now continue with part 2 and part 3 to complete the full 60 to 70 minutes. Rewrite this into a slower, higher retention YouTube version. Adapt it into Bangla English mixed narration. Just say the word. You do not leave immediately. No one does. The room holds you. Your boots are planted, but your mind drifts, because your body refuses to accept what your eyes are seeing. 29 nurses. 29 women who never fired a shot. The war did not kill them with bullets. It killed them with absence. The lieutenant orders the men to search the remaining rooms. You move through narrow hallways. Each door opens slowly. Each room is empty. A treatment room with rusted surgical tools. A small kitchen with frozen soup still in a pot. A stack of medical crates stamped Wehrmacht Sanitätsdienst, medical service. All empty. The cold has claimed everything. Outside, the snow continues to fall, indifferent. Inside, the air feels heavier with every breath. One soldier mutters, "They were supposed to be protected." He is right. Under international law, medical personnel are non-combatants. But law collapses faster than buildings when a nation collapses. By early 1945, Germany is no longer a functioning state. It is a patchwork of shattered commands and disconnected units. Orders come late or not at all. Fuel shortages cripple everything. Ambulances sit idle. Trains stop mid-route. Entire hospitals are evacuated halfway, then abandoned. Medical staff are told to hold position. That phrase becomes a death sentence. The nurses you found were victims of logistical annihilation. Not cruelty. Not execution. But a system that ran out of time. And they were far from the only ones. Across Germany, similar stories unfold, though few are ever documented. Because there were no survivors to tell them. You help with the burial. There is no ceremony. No prayers spoken aloud. Just frozen ground and quiet movements. You place blankets over the bodies before they are moved. It feels pointless. Too late. You notice small details now. One nurse clutches a photograph. Another wears a necklace tucked into her uniform. A third has frostbitten fingers wrapped in gauze. She was injured herself, yet kept working. You realize something unsettling. These women died doing what they were trained to do. They stayed. They waited. They obeyed. And the war repaid them with silence. That night no one jokes. No one plays cards. Men stare at nothing. The discovery has changed the tone of the unit. This isn't fear. This is grief. You think about your own medics, the American nurses back home, the Red Cross volunteers. You imagine them in that room. You wonder how thin the line really is. Uniforms change. Languages change. But cold is the same. Hunger is the same. Abandonment is the same. For the first time in months, the enemy stops feeling abstract. The war becomes unbearably human. The report moves up the chain. It is read, filed, forgotten. There is no investigation, no trial, because there is no crime to prosecute, only collapse. But among soldiers, stories spread fast. Word travels. Other units speak of similar discoveries: small aid stations, civilian shelters, elderly couples frozen in basements. This is what total war leaves behind. The discovery hardens no one. It sobers them. The fighting continues, but something fundamental has shifted. Victory no longer feels clean. World War II is remembered in chapters. Normandy, Stalingrad, Berlin, Hiroshima. But history rarely pauses for rooms like this. There is no tactical lesson, no strategic breakthrough, just consequence. And that is why this story nearly disappears. Because it does not fit into triumph. It fits into aftermath. The war ends in May 1945. Germany surrenders. Crowds celebrate. Flags wave. But you do not celebrate. Not really. Because your war ended earlier. In that room. You return home later that year. You take off the uniform. You try to explain. But how do you describe a silence like that? So you don't. You build a life. You work. You raise children. But memory does not ask permission. Comes back in winter. In empty buildings. In quiet rooms. A reference in a divisional report. A brief note in a veteran's diary. No names. No photographs. Just a number. 29. They remain largely anonymous. But anonymity does not erase significance. They represent thousands of medical workers, on all sides, who died not in battle but in collapse. They remind us that war kills long after the shooting stops. Because modern wars still produce the same conditions. Broken supply lines. Abandoned civilians. Medical staff left behind. Different flags. Same outcome. This story is not about blame. It is about cost. The cost paid by those who never chose to fight. Final closing. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or country, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that those 29 German nurses, and the soldiers who found them, do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.